We're back to the Neil Haley Show. My guest today is author Len Sciuto, author of Hades Crypt and much, much more. Len, thanks for stopping by. We're going to talk about, we just talked about all of the challenges of being in the military, especially, the role on submarines and the ways that you had to keep certain government secrets and all the different things that you went through. Once those days were over, how did you transition from the military? How difficult was that for you, especially when your day was probably jam-packed with schedules and different things, and then bam, you're a civilian?
Well, when you first started out and talked about it, I sort of chuckled to myself. Uh, when I left the military, I had been selected for the next rank, and I turned it down because my wife was had a medical issue, and family and wife was more important to me than the military. And at that point, I had 34 years in. And then, any rate, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is if you're in the military and you're an officer, you're a leader, so you can't, in essence, wear your emotions on your sleeve. You can think it, but you can't say it. I took a job as I left. I was fortunate enough to be hired by Vermont Yankee Nuclear Power Plant as a chemist. And as an officer, because you lead and you're generally direct, it was very uncomfortable for me to see things and not to be able to change them, so to speak. Not only in working in the civilian community, so to speak, but even just in everyday kind of things. Like it's kind of humorous. I no longer wore a blue suit all the time, so it was fun deciding, like, hey, what am I going to wear today? The financial aspects, because I had seen and planned for that particular day, were okay. Like what I do now is kind of like what I had to go through when I left the military. I'm part of the parish council where I go to church, and I work specifically with military personnel. When guys are retiring from active duty after doing 20 or just a hitch or two, or even the reservists, or guys that have gotten out and now have issues, I work with them on medical, financial, employment, insurance, housing, that kind of thing, education for their kids, so forth and so on. And those are the things that I had to go through walking away from the military. It was very difficult for me because I had spent so many years in it that it's inbred, so to speak, and it's very difficult to change your personality, so to speak. The civilian side for my wife and my children were good, and they were very happy that they weren't moving every 4 years. So we moved, I think, like in first 13 years I was in, we moved like 4 or 5 times. And it was difficult for the kids to adjust to things like school and that type of thing. So they knew they were going to be there for as long as we were in that area. And it was a beautiful area to be in. The fall colors were fantastic. I didn't particularly like shoveling snow, but the good things come with a little bit of bad, but it's not super bad. It's just a little bad because you got to be out there shoveling snow.
Yeah, I get it. Now, talking about your job as a chemist, how did that job differ from when you were in the military? Meaning your days, how they worked, how you developed everything, and that nature.
Well, as a military officer, you're leading people, and as a nuclear chemist, I was just part of a group, and I had a supervisor above me, and there were guys that worked alongside me. and it was okay. The military side was, mostly people related, and all of a sudden you got something to do. As a nuclear chemist, as I was going through the training program, you realize that if you make a mistake or something goes wrong at the plant, there are going to be thousands of people that are not going to be very well. I'll put it that way. So that thought is always in your mind. And as a nuclear chemist in the team being a team player, we did 212 analyses a day on the nuclear reactor, on the cooling water systems, that type of thing. And the reason that we do all those tests and did all those tests was to ensure that the reactor and the associated equipment that kept us producing electricity were safe, were working and functioning properly, but also it sets up trend, sets up trend data. So you can see, is something falling off? What's causing it to fall off? If something is rising, why? And there were over 600 people working in that plant, and we had monitoring systems out for the environment to ensure that we weren't releasing anything that was harmful. So it's kind of like my 1970s mission into the Black Sea. You're going into there's a possibility of going into harm's way, but at the same time, you realize that if you do your job properly, you're probably going to walk away safely.
Wow.
So, yeah.
But so then, working for somebody versus leading so many people, that's a challenge in transitioning as well, because you're so used to giving orders. Now you have to take orders from somebody else.
Right. Hang on a second. Got a runny nose.
Okay.
That part of it is difficult because, there are some things that, from a military perspective, you have to look at all the possibilities, the good and the bad. And Shield and Storm, I was the N3 operations officer, and for operations, I had responsibility for 1,416 men and women in that war. Every morning, I used to say a prayer to myself, and it was, help me, Lord, to look at all the possibilities, look at positions, ensure that the orders I give doesn't needlessly cause someone their life. And that played into performing as a nuclear chemist in a nuclear power plant as well, except you're not leading. You're doing a job, you're looking at data, you're handling all kinds of radioactive material. And that transition wasn't bad. The transition that I was uncomfortable with is I was now working with people who, how do I put this, were extremely intelligent, but some of them really didn't have common sense, and I'll put it that way.
Right.
So, but the idea was, we were providing service. I firmly believe that nuclear power in environmental and economical ways is the way to go. We can't rely on oil and natural gas forever. There's only so much that this planet can give us. And as you know right now, that there's a big item up in the air, and it's called the Arctic Circle. And you and I talked about that earlier. There's a lot of crude oil, a lot of natural gas, and a lot of precious metals up there. And if you've been following the activities of our government and the Commander-in-Chief and the President of the United States, you see that they're talking about precious metals, oil, natural gas, and now the nuclear side of things is also a hot topic. I'll put it that way. So it's the world, and it's the way the world is. What can I say about that?
No, absolutely. Definitely. So let's dive into some of the help so after you retired from your job, is that when you started to do the work in the church with transition for military?
No, it was right after I moved to Florida. Um, I was always a churchgoer anyway, because as they say, if you're in the military, sooner or later, wherever you are, you're going to find God. And
Right.
in the Black Sea, it was a tough time for us. I'll put it that way. That's inside Russian territorial waters at the height of the Cold War, by the way. And the when I came here to Florida in 2016, I was raised in Florida, and I wanted to come back to Florida. I was tired of shoveling snow, because I was living in New Hampshire at the time, and I had to register with the church. And when I did, the first Sunday I was here, the pastor's name was Father Prendergast, Catholic, and I said good morning to him as I was walking out of church, and he goes, "Excuse me, is your name Len?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Great." He said, "I looked at your registration form. Parish Council is meeting Monday night at 6:30. Would you please be there?" And I said, "May I ask why?" He said, "When you're at the meeting, I'll explain." So I went to the Parish Council meeting. He introduced me and said, "Why don't you tell everybody your background?" And I did. And he said, "We have a lot of military here because we're very close to Jacksonville, and there are 4 military bases here." He said, "One of the issues we have is some of these people need help, and many of us here don't have that military background. Would you consider being part of the parish council and working with our military people in the parish?" And I agreed to do that. I was always the kind of person where if you're a leader, you want to make sure that you don't lose anybody needlessly, or if somebody has a problem and can't perform to their full capability, you help them with the problem. So I've been doing that here since 2016, so it's been 9 years. The other aspect that helped me with, excuse me, that helped me with what I call the Bang Gang, and those are the guys that were on that diesel boat I was on over. And I started going to reunions every year, and I think I mentioned this once before, but I'll mention it again. We were at one of the reunion banquets, and over the first couple I was there, nobody was writing an invocation before having the banquet meal, so I started writing the invocations.
Right.
And I remember it was in New London, Connecticut, and I got up to use the men's room. When I came back into the room, everybody stood up and applauded. And I was, why are they applauding me? What did I do? I didn't do anything. So I sat down next to my wife and I said, "Why are they applauding?" She said, "They just made you the chaplain for the group." So
Oh
I
my
ended up,
goodness.
yeah. So I've been doing that since, oh my God, since 2010. So it's been,
Holy cow.
what? Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah,
that
15
I've been,
years. What do you think
yeah.
has been the biggest challenge for people transitioning when you're working with the Bang members, or you're working with the members in the church that are transitioning from the military?
That's a tough question, Neil. A lot of it is because you are used to being told to do something, or you're asked to do something, or you see something that needs to be done, you just go and do it. In the civilian life, if you're working for somebody else, you're also told what you have to do. But there are things where, in the spur of a moment, especially as a nuclear chemist, you don't have the time sometimes to talk to people and say, "Hey, this is an issue. This is how we're going to fix it." So you just go out and do it, and then you tell them after the fact. That's the kind of responsibility most anybody working in that field, that professional field, or in any field that's related to causing harm to others. It's difficult sometimes. I will tell you that in my group, there were 13 people, and I retired in 2005, so 20 years ago. Right now, there's only 5 of us still here. 8 are gone already. A lot of it doesn't have to do with geriatric aspects or medical aspects, so to speak. It's being exposed to the radiation and knowing full well that there'll come a day when possibility your life will be cut short. So if that's in the back of your mind, but also you have to think and be ready to approach any contingency that might arise without, and then talking to someone about it. Like if you're on a night shift and something happens where there's a sudden, what I'll call burst of radiation gas, the monitoring system goes off. So then the control room sees it, they call us in the chemistry department, and then we start looking at what's causing it, and then we react to it. The worst case scenario, you shut the reactor down. So that's the type of things that you have to consider.
Wow. Yeah. So I think that there's so many different things. And what advice would you offer right now for people transitioning from the military?
Most of the time when I talk to the guys here that are coming off active duty, as an example, the gentleman across the street was a pilot for the Navy. He moved in, and what I do with people moving in around me is Sharon and I, my wife. I'm an Italian fellow, so my grandmother taught me to make pastries at 16. So we'll knock on the door with some pastries, say welcome to the neighborhood. But I have a list of businesses that they might be interested in, like lawn maintenance, a plumber, electrician, a contractor for maybe home repairs, that kind of thing. Medical aspects are extremely important. If you're retired military, you have a medical package called TRICARE for Life, and those doctors have to be approved in that system to be able to use them. So you have to help them find the doctors that are applicable to their needs, so to speak. So it's that kind of thing. There are people who, I think it's tougher for guys that were in the Army or the Marine Corps, or maybe being called up for active duty in the National Guard and have fallen into what I'll call the harm's way arena. Those people, as you know, and as you've read about, and as you've been with, they need to see somebody to help them work on the issue that they may have. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes it's not. There was a guy here who was having difficulty dealing with, or actually his wife and he were having difficulties relating to each other. And we were able to, through the church, the parish, and myself, working with medical and religious people to help them transition into a better relationship, I'll put it that way. So those are it's the same way whether you're in the military or out of the military. You have to relate to people. They have to have confidence in you and trust in you, and you have to be able to, as a good neighbor, help them out as best you can, if you can.
No, no doubt.
So,
And if you don't do that, yeah, it's a hard situation. All right, so very, very soon, your website will be up. We'll be talking about that. But remember, DM me if you're interested in buying the book. The book will be out soon. We'll be talking more about that very, very soon. And as I'll be putting it out in social media for Len, everyone will know what's going on with him. And I appreciate you coming by. It was great. It was a great conversation.
well, one thing, Neil, if I may, the book scheduled marketing date is November 4th. I just finished the final draft. There's a couple of changes we have to make, but the book in draft form was sent to me with a book cover. The cover is phenomenal. They did a fantastic job on the cover. And we're working on a book review now, and there's a press release that's getting ready to come out as well. I'm looking forward to putting this book out. The other interesting thing I'll mention real quick
Yeah.
is first two books were the hardcover sales were really good, and the paperback and the Kindle and the ebooks were okay, not the best. But now in today's market, the hardcover books are the least that are sold, and the paperbacks and the Kindle and the ebooks are the ones that sell like hotcakes. So
Yeah. Go figure how things change. All right. So we'll
yeah,
give you updates November 4th. Appreciate
yeah,
it, Len,
it's
and we'll
around
talk
that day.
soon.
Yeah, it's around